Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Adrian Fields and I'm an expat entrepreneur currently living in Lisbon. Now, I haven't done one of these kitchen videos for a while, but I actually just bought and assembled this IKEA island worktop yesterday expressly for the purpose of doing these kinds of videos, because my kitchen layout is such that if I'm standing here cooking where I have my counter space, it's not very attractive. So I bought this so that I can face you and have good lighting at the same time. Today we're going to be making Italian biscotti, which I have for breakfast every day. I've been doing this for like 6 months with my fresh cappuccino that I make every morning with my coffee machine that I love very much. And I mean, I'm not talking about some Nespresso bullshit. I'm talking about I grind the beans and then put them in the portafilter, make my espresso, and then steam the milk and make like a real cappuccino. Basically, I'm an aspiring Italian living in Portugal. I know this doesn't make any sense, but let's just roll with it. So I don't know that you'll actually want to follow this video for real recipe advice. My advice would be you could find a much better, easier recipe to follow online, but this is more let's talk, have a glass of Prosecco, and cook together. All right, so first thing is I have set my oven to 180 degrees Celsius to preheat. Now we need to melt some butter. And okay, so I have to tell you, I kind of adapted this recipe because it made too many biscotti. It was taking forever and I prefer to make a bit less. So I'm taking about a little more than 100 grams of butter, which is very convenient. This Portuguese butter I buy, it's sliced in, or it has indicators for each 50 grams. So I'm gonna cut just let's say a little bit more than that, because it says 141 in the recipe that I typically do, but it makes such a high yield that it's a bit unwieldy. So I let that go kind of slowly, because you're also supposed to technically fully melt the butter, but I don't know how else you can do it. And I've been making mine like this for months and I don't have any issues with it, so that's the way I do it. As I promised, also I'm going to tell you just about life in Portugal, things that have been going on. I don't know if you can hear my voice. I've actually been a bit sick for the last week with some kind of cold or something, and it's not fun. I hate being sick. I mean, nobody likes being sick, right? So while the butter is melting, we're going to put together our dry ingredients. Okay, so we need our regular flour, some baking powder, salt, and I like to add cinnamon to my biscotti. So it's kind of modified actually, because also mine, I believe, are healthier. I use less sugar instead of chocolate. I use raisins. I mean, that might not be everybody's jam, but to me, they're delicious. I'm not a big sugar person in general, so it's kind of a very new thing for me in general, to have something sweet for breakfast like that. All right, so again, the original recipe that I had been following online, it called for 3 1/3 cup of flour, but because I'm going to be using less butter and only 2 eggs instead of 3, I'm gonna start out with 2 1/2 cups of flour. And the thing is, you'll just need to keep adding more flour anyway, depending on the consistency of your biscotti, because you'll kind of just get a feel for it if it's too sticky to handle. So I don't think that these rules are very specific, you know what I mean? You kind of just after you've been making it for a while, I think that you start to just understand the estimates. All right, so I'm also putting in 1 tablespoon of baking powder and I don't even know what I would call it. I'm just gonna put in a pinch of salt like this. And then, as I said, I really like cinnamon. I think it gives it an extra dimension. So I'm pretty liberal with the cinnamon. And now you'll want to mix that up. Wow, already we're talking a lot about cooking and not a lot about life, but I promise we're gonna get there, because there are parts when I have to just mix and stuff is a bit boring. But But yeah, wow, life in Portugal. I am in the process of changing my driver's license to have a Portuguese driver's license. I actually finally went there to it's called the IMT, which is their version of the DMV in America. And wow, I mean, that's a long story. I actually recorded a 10-minute video about that, like when I got back from the IMT, because I found it to be really kind of stressful experience. They scheduled me for 9 a.m. Typically I don't get out of bed before 10:30, so already this was like a struggle. And then, you know, it took me like months and months to get all of the documents that are required to change the driver's license from an American one to a Portuguese one. Like, you need all of this official documentation, apostille, driving record, certified, etc., etc., etc. You submit all of this online, and did that 3 times until I finally got the appointment. It was like a month later at 9 a.m. So I went there. I was actually the very first person to have the appointment that day. And it seemed like it was pretty easy and straightforward. Like, I gave the documents, I was speaking to the lady in Portuguese, feeling pretty good about myself. But I noticed as soon as she gave me my paper, that's the temporary driver's license until you get the physical one, it didn't have my endorsement for a motorcycle. It was just for like a regular car. And I do have a motorcycle endorsement. I am legally, you know, licensed to drive motorcycles. And from what I understood, she was like, oh no, that doesn't come on the temporary driver's license. But to me, this doesn't make any sense at all. Like, why would it not be on the temporary driver's license? She said, oh, they have to like verify with the US authority that you're actually licensed. But when you go to this appointment and you give them your old physical driver's license, it has the endorsement on there. So I don't know, this doesn't make any sense. I guess I won't know until I receive the official, you know, plastic driver's license. And it seems like they're processing them a little bit more quickly than they used to, because while I was there, an American couple had showed up and was inquiring, like, why did the husband receive his card and the wife not receive hers? But they'd only had their appointment like 3 weeks ago or something. And basically, I guess they got delivered separately, where the husband had received his and they weren't home when they sent the wives. But anyway, that short anecdote just to say that, I mean, that's a very quick turnaround, because what I had read online is that it could take 6 months to a year to get your driver's license. That's crazy. There's just a lot of problems like that here with the bureaucracy that really frustrate me. Also, of course, the ladies were not very friendly, you know, at the IMT, which made me a bit nostalgic for Bali. And, you know, the fact that people there are like much more friendly, smiling, etc. than they are here. But yeah, so I don't know, we'll see what happens. I'm still also dealing with my tax problems here. I've like submitted now 2 amended returns, but 3 in total. And each time it like comes out to a different situation of how much I owe. Again, another frustrating thing. I'm grateful that I have my friend helping me, my Portuguese friend, who is a bit more versed in these kinds of things and has, you know, done a lot for me. But it's just very frustrating and complicated to navigate these types of systems, you know? God, this butter is going really slowly. I'm going to turn up the heat just a little bit to get it moving a bit faster. So, yeah, I mean, that is my current life situation, at least in terms of Portuguese bureaucracy. I'm dating quite a lot, especially in this last like week or so, which is kind of maybe irresponsible of me, because I've also been sick, but it hasn't slowed me down. I've met a lot of guys, including someone that I think has some good potential, actually a French guy who was visiting. But yeah, Portuguese men continue to confound me, continue to be very difficult to like do much with. I don't know, I just find that nothing really ever progresses with them beyond sex. Anyway, I think I've talked about that so many times on different videos. I don't get like what it is culturally about these guys that just it's just different. Like before I moved here and I didn't really know anything about Portugal, I would have expected Portuguese guys to be very similar to Spanish guys, or I mean not just guys, but like Portuguese culture to be similar to Spanish culture, you would think, right? Because of the close geographical proximity. And that's not at all the case. Portugal has a very distinct culture from Spain, whereas Spain is more like lively and vivacious and open and fun-spirited. Portugal is kind of the opposite of that, like quite reserved, a little bit somber, and a lot of guys here, they're not even out to their family. Like I went on a date the other night with a Portuguese guy, and he's like 30 and not out to his family, and that's much more frequent than you would imagine, again, because of, it's not, you can't even just blame like the Catholic influence, because Spain has the same Catholic influence. It's more like, as was explained to me, how during the dictatorship here, Portugal was quite cut off from the rest of the world, and so maybe somehow that has some like lasting effects, and families are potentially a bit more conservative than in other places, you know, where they might not care as much these days. So anyway, that's just to say that I am still very single, but mingling quite a lot. And I guess still always my struggle is finding like joy and satisfaction and kind of contentment in day-to-day life without the relationship that I really crave. And that is honestly still a bit of a challenge to me. Like there are just times when I feel quite bored, and I have been nostalgic for Bali as well, but very specifically like the luxury and the comfort of my former life, my villa there, you know, whereas here I feel like I'm just a normal person, like living in an apartment, and comparatively nowhere near as wealthy as like other established Portuguese people that I see regularly. You know, in Bali I really felt very privileged. I felt wealthy, even though my cost of living was much less than it is here, you know? And when I say that, for example, I hooked up with a guy yesterday who was actually Croatian, my very first Croatian person that I even maybe ever met. You know, he's like, you don't have a normal life. You live in this like a big apartment. You're doing pretty well for yourself. And of course, I don't really see it that way, because amongst my expat friends, I think that we're all kind of on a similar level. But also that, again, if I'm comparing myself to like other people, I still feel like I am not where I would want to be, you know? I don't own a home. I don't own a car. I would love to be more, you know, financially established, basically. So to that regard, also, in the last few months, I kind of started to inquire and see how is the real estate market here if I were to buy something, because there are some like incentives if you're under 35 and you're buying your primary residence. It's obviously much better if you're Portuguese, because you can actually buy something with a 0% down payment. However, because in my case my income is from outside Portugal, being again that I have a business in the United States, which is why I shouldn't be paying tax here. But anyway, my down payment would still have to be a minimum of 20%. So, you know, looking to find something in Lisbon that would be my kind of taste level and where I would want to live, I think would be quite expensive. Even though, you know, probably my mortgage payment would be less than my rental payment, because I pay 1,800 euros a month to rent this apartment here. And, you know, if I were to buy like a $400,000 property but had 20% a down payment, my mortgage payment would only come out to like 1,300 euros per month. I just kind of want to own something because I feel like it would make me feel much more established in life, you know? Like you're just in a better, you know, in a more established place. I feel like with being a renter, I don't know, there's always this fear in the back of my head that like the rug could be pulled out from under you and you could be homeless. Obviously that's probably not the case, but you know, my lease on this apartment is coming up. I've been here almost 2 years now. It's coming up at the end of December, and I haven't started the conversation yet with my landlord about renewing it. And so in the last month or so, I've also been looking at other rentals, and I visited only like 2 other apartments so far because it's very hard to find something that meets my criteria. God, this butter, come on, hurry up. I don't want to burn the butter, but like you gotta melt faster, babe. Yeah, so I've only seen 2 apartments that are in my price range and kind of along the lines of what I'm looking for, and neither was the right fit. The first one had this amazing view. That's actually one of the things that is very important to me that I don't have here. Like, it drives me crazy. I feel very claustrophobic that from what I'm looking at right now, my windows here in the living room, I just look out onto the buildings across the street. And similarly on the other side of the apartment where is my bedroom, it looks out onto this like courtyard, but straight in front there's another wall, and then you can have like a bit of a view from the left side, but of nothing nice. And I would love to have a view of the river. All right, we can kind of get going with this now, with the butter is melted enough. All right, so yeah, I would love to. There are other areas that I really like, a little bit outside of Lisbon, because I don't need to be right in the center like I am now. Now that I have a motorbike, I have more flexibility, you know? And Lisbon is still small, so there are neighborhoods like Ajuda, Belém, Alcântara. Again, they're more like the west side, near to the bridge, that I quite like, are more like chill, that have a view. All right, so so the original recipe, it calls for 1 1/4 cup of sugar. Now I'm going to be reducing everything because we're making a smaller yield, but also I do like less sugar. So I'm going to put in 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So here's 1/2 cup. You know what, even that might be like enough. Maybe I'll do like, what's 1/2 of a quarter? Like 1/8? Yeah, so 1/8 plus 1/2. Like, that's already enough. I don't like so much sugar, you know, it's not good for you. But the biscotti are supposed to be sweet. So, all right, so we mix our sugar and our butter. All right, so let me tell you about these 2 places that I've seen. The first one had an amazing view. It was in, what is that neighborhood called? Alfama. I told you I'm sick. I just coughed and hiccuped at the same time. So it's in Alfama, which is a very touristic neighborhood. That I don't want to be around so many tourists. That's also what I don't particularly love about my neighborhood here in Príncipe Real. Not that it's too touristic, but it's just too busy. So that place had an amazing view of the river, but it was only a 1-bedroom. It was very modern. It had just been renovated. It was a lofted 1-bedroom, but I realized I can't downsize my life that much. You know, I work from home. I spend a lot of time at home. I need more space. And like, for example, I like having people over to my home, do like dinner parties and stuff, and in that apartment, it just like wasn't spacious enough. All right, so we've now mixed our butter and sugar like this. Now I'm gonna add in 2 eggs. All right, so I got my bowl now to put the eggs into before I put them into our mix. You're gonna put them in 1 by 1. Again, are you guys even gonna like make this recipe? But maybe it could just be inspiring, and then you'll Google like how to do it and follow someone or a recipe that is more clear and concise than I am, because between me talking about my life and baking, I think it's a lot, right? All right, so we've got 1 egg in. Here comes the second one. Isn't it crazy, guys? I mean, if you followed my journey from like way back when I lived in Bali, I never did anything for myself. I never baked before I lived in Portugal. I never cooked. I didn't clean. I really like did next to nothing for myself. You know, I am so self-sufficient. It really surprises even me still. All right, so we're gonna add in the rest of our wet ingredients. So we're adding some vanilla. We're gonna put in 1 teaspoon, maybe a little bit more because the original recipe called for 2. All right, well that was a little bit more. That just like spilled out. All right, so that, and we need some, okay. So I'm modifying again like a little bit because in addition to the cinnamon, I'm gonna put in some lemon juice. because I think that also adds like a nice additional, very subtle flavor to my biscotti. Alright, so I had already cut up half a lemon. I'm going to put in the juice without getting the seeds in there. Oh, seed almost. Oh, okay. Alright, we've got in our lemon juice without the seed. And let me see, did I do everything as I was supposed to? Because I've never done this like while drinking plus talking to the camera. Alright, 2 eggs, sugar, melted butter, vanilla, lemon juice. Is there anything that I am missing? It does not appear that. It does not appear to be missing anything. Alright, so now we're going to combine our dry and our wet ingredients. What we can do is do it 1 cup at a time because, you know, it will thicken up obviously with each amount of flour that we add in. So the first cup I can do with just the, what do you call this, a whisk, right? And then after that I go in with my spatula because otherwise it gets stuck to the whisk and I don't like that. You know, so yeah, basically why do I even eat biscotti and how did this start? Well, as I had said at the beginning of this video, I'm like an aspiring Italian. I love Italian culture. I had started studying Italian when I was still in high school. It was actually my 3rd language because French was my primary language that I was studying. And when they created the option also for Italian, I was like, well, that's chic, you know? And I wanted to learn that as well. So I started in high school and then I studied also like a couple semesters in university. And then basically like I kind of forgot about Italian for many, many years. Like, especially when I moved to Mexico when I was 27. And then I started to, you know, actually take Spanish courses and learn Spanish. I kind of had to like push Italian out of my head because it was too confusing. There was too much overlap. And then I moved here. I had an Italian lover and that like reignited my interest and my passion for Italian. And then also like made me realize that I think Italian men are the best lovers in the world, and I just love Italian culture, the food, etc., etc. So I was like, you know what, because I want an Italian husband, I'm going to make myself into the like perfect partner and learn how to make all of these things so that the next time I have an Italian, they won't dump me basically for not, I don't know, for who knows what reason. So anyway, basically that's kind of how I started all of this journey, and now like I cook Italian food probably every day because I make a ton of pasta and I'm obsessed with the pasta queen. I'm sure you guys have heard of her. If not from Instagram, TikTok, then, you know, maybe from her new like TV show that she has on Amazon Prime, which I just started watching yesterday. Like this woman is incredible. She's my spirit animal. I just think she's so fabulous. Anyway, so we're still adding in the rest of our dry ingredients. And you know what, I actually wonder, was I supposed to add 2 tablespoons of baking powder or only 1? But I'm pretty sure it's just 1. Anyway, let's keep going. So, yes, I mean, I kind of enjoy, you know, the experience of cooking for myself. It makes me feel like good that I know I can take care of myself, that I can make myself nutritious food. Even though I spend a ton of money on groceries, I mentioned this in a previous video, and people were like, how is it possible you're spending almost €1,000 a month on food when it's mostly groceries? I really don't know. I mean, I go grocery shopping almost every day. I'm always buying like fresh ingredients, and I guess it just adds up. But I don't know, maybe that's an overestimate. I don't think it's exactly 1,000. I think it's like, I don't know, but every time I go to Auchan, there's like no way I'm leaving with less than €40. And usually it's almost always around 50. So because that's like every other day or so that I go to Auchan, it's probably coming out to like 150 a week. So 300, 600. No, but I think it's more than 600 though. Just, I don't know. Yeah, I spend a lot. Somehow, you know, cooking every meal every day I'm still spending more than when I lived in Bali and had every meal every day delivered. Like, that's crazy to me. But I mean, that's life in Europe. Stuff here is just expensive. I think I will finally get a cleaner though to come once a week. I don't know, it's kind of annoying to have somebody like come into your space and have to coordinate with them, because again, like, this apartment is not that big, so I don't love the idea of having somebody clean while I'm like sitting at home, but then also I don't know if I trust someone to clean when I'm not here. So, I mean, dilemmas indeed. All right, well, look at this. So this is how my dough is looking. It's obviously, I like the consistency of it right now. It's to the point where now I can add in my slivered almonds and raisins. All right, so the original recipe had called for 2/3 cup of both raisins or chocolate chips if you were using that, and of slivered almonds. But again, we are modifying, so I'm going to go in with 1/2 cup of each. Now, I prefer these golden raisins. Everything is kind of mixed in here. I have 3 different raisins, but the ones that I don't like, don't buy these like big raisins. I don't even know what they're called, but they kind of like mess up when you cut the biscotti because they're so big that then the biscotti will crumble. But because I mixed everything up in here, I never like took the time to then separate out the big raisins. I bought them when I couldn't find the other raisins that I needed. So just kind of quickly, like, I'm going to take out some of the more egregious ones that I know are going to mess up my cutting at the final stage. All right, that's the best that I'm going to do right now. Okay, no it's not, because I can see I don't want these big ones in here. So yeah, you want like, you know, regular sized small raisins if you're using them. Again, we're doing like the modified healthy version of the biscotti. All right, so here we go. We've got 1/2 cup of the raisins in. Now we are going to take 1/2 cup of slivered almonds. You know, my like real aspiration in life is just to be like, I know it's quite popular nowadays, this term trad wife, like traditional wife. But that's sort of also my goal. I just want to be basically like a house husband, and I don't need somebody to like take care of me financially because, okay, I have my own business. But, you know, I want to just spend my days like cooking, having sex, going on walks. Just like, to me that sounds so idyllic. And I want to live on a farm, and I'm trying to manifest that in my life. Somebody who also wants to have this type of lifestyle with me. It's like, I guess sometimes it's a bit frustrating because I just want to be living that now. You know what I mean? So the like delta between what I want and what I have sometimes is a bit frustrating. You know, when you're just like impatient for the next phase of your life. Okay, well, we're almost done now with our dough. I'm very happy with the consistency. It's not sticky at all. So we can now actually split this into 2 and put it on our baking sheet, which I have ready to go here. So I'm going to line them up. I'm going to have 2 of them lengthwise. So I take my dough, I'm going to split it roughly in half here, and then I'll take it with my hands and shape the biscotti into like kind of long, about like 3 inches thick and about like 1 inch high. This is actually going to be a much smaller yield than I was expecting. But I guess maybe it's better that way, because then, you know, they will be like really fresh. This will probably make like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe like 16 biscotti, and I have 1 a day approximately. But I also give them to guys that I hook up with, usually like at the end of our at the end of our hookup. Alright, so here's the second one. This one is going to be bigger. Now you obviously, I don't know why I'm saying obviously if you've never made this before, but you want to give them space, you know, because they will expand in the oven. So again, I want to get them long enough lengthwise, so I'm kind of massaging them up and down to get the length that I want here. So these are going to go in the oven for 30 minutes, and then once they come out, they need to cool basically down to room temperature before you're going to bake them again for 10 minutes on each side. But alright, this is how it's looking on my baking sheet. They're ready to go in the oven. So let's pop these in. Alright, goes in the oven. Siri, set the timer for 30 minutes. Oh, probably it can't because I have my video going. Alright, and I'm back. So I wasn't sure that I was going to continue the filming, but you know what? I said let me not be lazy and keep going. So, it's been 30 minutes. And we are going to take out the biscotti from the oven. Ow, hot. Alright, so this is how they're looking. They have blown up predictably, like they do. Now we need to leave them until they cool down, like around 30 minutes or so. I'm actually going to turn off the oven just because it's so freaking hot. I'm going to have to turn it back on to 180 again when I have to then bake them, but we're going to let them cool. Once they cool, then I will cut them up into the actual biscotti shapes and then line them and put them in the oven twice more. So this is a process that takes a little bit of time. You know, the mixing of the ingredients is pretty fast. I think like had I not been talking so much, that would have only taken maybe like 10-15 minutes. But then because you have to wait and then bake them again and flip them, all of that, you're looking at a whole process that usually takes me like an hour and a half to 2 hours, you know, from start to finish. Alright, so it's been about 30 minutes. My biscotti have cooled down, so now I can cut them into the slices that they will be for the biscotti. So I do about like, I would say 1.5 inches thick. I realized I was watching back the earlier part of this video while waiting for these to cool down. And by the way, so mine always crumble a little bit like this. I think it's normal. It's hard to get them perfect. And I noticed that, you know, I was telling you I had seen 2 different apartments, and I only told you about one that I went to see. So now I'm going to tell you about the second one that I saw last week. It was in Campo do Rique, which is a neighborhood that I kind of like, but also have a little bit of hesitation about because it's right underneath the flight plan. It's right underneath the landing of the airplanes when they come into Lisbon. So I noticed once before, I was at somebody's like lunch in their patio there, and it was really noisy. Like every 3 minutes you hear the plane landing. So that was my worry when I went to this house. I needed to go in person to see like would that be an issue, and it was really loud. I mean, the place was spacious, it had character, but it really needed like renovation work, and the agent told me that the landlord didn't want to do any work whatsoever. It was just like rough around the edges, you know? It had a beautiful view actually because it was right adjacent to the Monsanto Park, so that was lovely. But between the fact that you hear the airplanes and then it was on the ground floor, at least the living room was, so you get like, I don't know, it just wasn't that nice. I felt like I might end up feeling a little bit like depressed because it's a little bit grungy, you know what I mean? I need something that's more, I don't know, a little bit more like polished, I guess. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, alright, so now I'm going to be putting the biscotti like this. You lay them on, you know, like with the flat edge that you just cut. And we have to cook them 10 minutes on each side. Now, biscotti actually means twice cooked. Cotti, like, is cooked, and bis, twice. That's why it's called biscotti. And that will give you that, like, crunchy, you know, traditional texture of the biscotti. I mean, right now, It tastes really good. It tastes like a cookie, but it'll become more hard with the next cooking. So I don't think that I'm gonna fit all of them in this round. Typically it will take me, like, if I do the full batch, which I said we are not because we're doing like a reduced yield, I'll have to do this 3 times, and that takes a long time. It's 10 minutes and you've got to take them out, flip them 10 minutes. So again, that's already an hour. Can you imagine? That's what I'm saying. It's like really can be a time commitment. But you know, I do this like once every 2 to 3 weeks, and then I have, you know, my breakfast is done. It's like I have my cappuccino, I have my biscotti. I feel very European Italian fantasy. So we'll see how many we can get in on this baking sheet. It would be great if I could get them all, but I don't have enough space. Anyway, so yeah, basically in my price range, I have not seen anything come up that fits all of my criteria. I don't feel like I have a huge, like, ask. I mean, I'm looking for something that has a bit of a view. 2 bedrooms, a bathtub, and really, like, I would say those are my main requisites. I don't want to be like in a weird area. When I say weird, I mean like Expo, which is the east side. I just find that like very unattractive, that area. It doesn't feel like you're in Europe even. It's just like high-rise buildings and modern stuff, and I want to have something that has a bit more local charm. That is, I mean, something that I like about my neighborhood, you know? When you walk down the street here, it's like, wow, I'm really in Europe. It's beautiful. You have the old buildings. My building has the azulejos, you know, the traditional Portuguese tiling. Oh, look, I think I'm going to be able to get them all on here. That's great. That'll save me a lot of time. So I just keep the ends as well. All right, I've got them all ready to go. So as I said, 10 minutes each side, and then we will be finished. All right, guys, the alarm has just gone off. It's been 10 minutes on each side now for the biscotti. I'm going to take them out, and we are officially finished with this recipe. Here we have them. They're very, very hot to handle right now. You can see, look at this, beautiful biscotto, singular. So this yielded 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 plus like 3 ends. So 16, actually, that's exactly what I had estimated. Wow. And this was easy, right? It was fun to do. That's it for this video. Enjoy your biscotti with, you know, an espresso, your cappuccino in the morning, just having your leisurely European luxurious lifestyle. And I say that with some sarcasm. But regardless, I appreciate if you guys watch this. I hope that it was fun for you. And until the next time, take care, and I'll see you later.